Most men chase admiration. Most men chase validation. Most men live in reaction to what women think, say, or desire. They build their identity based on approval. And Machiavelli would look at this and laugh, because this is the exact opposite of power. Machiavelli understood something that modern men unescaserum. The person who needs the least controls the game the most. This is the hidden psychological axis of attraction. Not be nice, not prove your worth, not show that you care enough. Real attraction begins when a man stops negotiating for permission to exist. A man who isn't desperate becomes mysterious. A man who doesn't beg for love becomes irresistible. A man who is not emotionally dependent becomes desired. Women don't fall for the man trying to win approval. They fall for the man who is already complete. This isn't cruelty. This isn't arrogance. This is self-sufficiency. The exact currency of power Machiavelli said moves the world. Once you stop begging for validation, you flip polarity. You go from being chosen to being the one who chooses. This is where desire becomes magnetic. Machiavelli believed something extremely uncomfortable for the modern world. People don't follow what is good. They follow what is advantageous. This is brutal, but this is real. Women do not become obsessed with men because they are perfect gentlemen. They become obsessed with the man whose existence naturally elevates their own. You don't attract by performing. You attract by being a direction, a force, a path, not a wishful request for attention. Modern men think attraction starts when they meet the woman. Machiavelli would say attraction starts way before, in how you draw the lines of your identity. Your purpose shapes how people respond to you. Your standards define how people treat you. Your internal value decides how rare you are in the market of attention. Most men try to seduce from emptiness, from loneliness, from hunger. So everything becomes negotiation. But when a man is rooted in his mission, in his self-governance, in his internal power, he becomes the psychological center of gravity in every social environment. This is why women go crazy for certain men without those men even trying. They radiate direction. A Machiavellian man is not trying to convince a woman to choose him. He becomes the man that subconsciously feels like the best strategic investment. Because humans naturally move toward where the future looks more favorable. Women don't fall for the present version of a man. They fall for the future they sense by being next to him. That is the real hidden teaching. If your presence opens possibilities, desire becomes inevitable. Here's the second thing Machiavelli understood that modern men ignore. Most people surrender their power because they fear losing connection. The Machiavellian man does not fear loss. He fears losing himself. Women become obsessed with the man who does not destroy his identity just to be liked. Because this kind of man is rare, extremely rare, and rarity is magnetic. When approval stops being your oxygen, presence becomes your leverage. Most men show their value trying to convince. The Machiavellian man demonstrates his value by not negotiating the non-negotiables. Boundaries are the unspoken language of high-value men. You do not need to announce them. You simply embody them. And here is the psychological twist Machiavelli would smile at. When a woman realizes she cannot easily manipulate or emotionally bargain with you, her mind becomes more invested in understanding you. Curiosity becomes addiction. Addiction becomes obsession. Not because you manipulated, but because you refused to be manipulated. You become the center of strategic uncertainty. and human psychology cannot walk away from mystery. Desire is not born from clarity. Desire is born from the unknown, and the man who owns himself becomes the unknown. Women don't want what is predictable. They want what they cannot fully possess. And Machiavelli would tell you, control is not taken. Control is given when the other side believes they must earn it. There is a concept inside Machiavellian logic that almost nobody applies in modern dating, and yet it is one of the most powerful tools of influence. Always increase your value at a distance. Most men do the opposite. They chase closer. They chase constant presence. They chase reassurance. But the more available you become, the less rare you are. In Machiavellian psychology, power compounds quietly, not loudly. You invest in yourself in silence. You build skill. You elevate your world. You refine your voice, your style, your identity away from the need for validation. When the world sees you again, you appear transformed. This is why women become obsessed. You evolve without asking for approval. Distance creates imagination. Imagination creates fantasy. Fantasy fuels desire. The Machiavellian man becomes valuable in a way that forces the world to recalibrate their perception of him. Because every time they see him again, he is more than the version they previously remembered. This is how you become a prize.
Not by telling people you are, but by upgrading your reality until they have no choice but to notice. A man who is always evolving creates emotional instability in others, especially in women, because uncertainty triggers pursuit. When she senses you are becoming someone other men are not, she cannot ignore it. It activates a primal fear. If I don't secure this man, another woman will. That is when attraction turns into urgency. Machiavelli didn't believe power was something you display. He believed power was something you become. This is where most men fail completely. They want strategy, but they do not want transformation. They want attraction, but they do not want evolution. They want attention, but they do not want discipline. Women do not fall in love with a tactic. They fall in love with the man who conquered himself. Self-mastery is the ultimate Machiavellian weapon because it gives you internal freedom. And the man who is internally free becomes externally unpredictable. You become the man whose mood isn't controlled by a message, whose happiness isn't dependent on a response, whose identity isn't shaped by who stays or who leaves. This is what truly drives women insane. Not arrogance, not coldness, but emotional sovereignty. Machiavelli would say, "He who governs himself becomes impossible to govern." And psychologically, this flips the entire dynamic. When you stop needing a woman to feel significant, that's when she begins to see you as significant. You become the storm she wants to understand, and the shelter she wants to belong to. Because women don't chase boys who want attention. Women chase the man whose presence feels like destiny. Machiavelli taught that emotion is the true battlefield of influence, not armies, not wealth, emotion. He wrote that the one who controls appearances controls perception, and perception creates power. Now think about that in the modern world of dating. Every man is trying to show emotion instantly, oversharing, overreacting, overtexting. But the Machiavellian man never reacts first. He observes. He studies the energy of a situation before acting, just as a strategist studies a battlefield before striking. And in doing so, he becomes mysterious, unpredictable, and therefore exciting. Emotional control is not coldness, it is the art of direction. When everyone else is moved by impulse, you move by intent. When everyone else is loud, you stay silent and let their minds fill the gaps. That silence, that pause, that measured reaction is what women find hypnotic, because it creates contrast. In a world of men who lose their composure at every sign of rejection, the man who stays calm becomes the anomaly, and the anomaly always attracts attention. The moment you learn to govern your reactions, you begin to dictate the emotional rhythm of any interaction. You decide when tension rises. You decide when comfort returns. You decide when distance becomes longing. Women don't consciously understand it, but they feel it. It's the unspoken gravity of a man whose emotions obey his will. That is the Machiavellian secret most never master. He doesn't suppress emotion, he directs it. He turns silence into suspense, confidence into calm, and presence into a weapon of fascination. Machiavelli understood a paradox about human nature. People value what they cannot fully predict. Men think that by being clear, constant, and fully available, they become more attractive. But psychologically, that kills curiosity. Predictability kills emotional imagination. The Machiavellian man creates a subtle paradox inside the woman's mind. He's present, but not dependent. He's interested, but not invested blindly. He's available, but not accessible cheaply. This paradox activates the part of the female mind wired for challenge, strategy, and selection. A woman doesn't want a prize she can obtain without effort. She wants a prize that requires elevation, proof, growth. What makes a woman obsessed is not a man she got easily, but the man she feels she must earn. And when this feeling is activated, her emotional system begins to reorganize around him. She begins to think more, imagine more, interpret more. She invests.
Machiavelli would say the control is never direct. Control is always psychological. You do not force someone to desire you. You create the conditions where they naturally intensify their own desire. That is why the Machiavellian approach to attraction is not manipulation. It is self-possession so strong that others become drawn into your gravity. You are not chasing anyone. You are becoming the type of man that people feel compelled to chase. Most men think attraction is a set of tricks, lines, moves, techniques, as if desire was something you perform to earn. Machiavelli would destroy this belief instantly. He believed that power is not in the act, but in the frame behind the act. Women don't fall for what you say, they fall for what your presence communicates without speaking. A Machiavellian man doesn't need to announce confidence. He doesn't need to signal strength. He doesn't need to explain his worth, because the moment you genuinely embody value, people feel it before you express it. This is the hidden teaching. Attraction is a side effect of identity. If your identity is weak, no technique will save you. If your identity is powerful, even silence works in your favor. Women are not attracted to your pursuit. They are attracted to the direction of your life. Where are you going? Who are you becoming? What future does your existence lead to? This is why the Machiavellian attraction is not about seduction tactics. It is about becoming the man whose reality is so compelling that women want to enter it voluntarily. You are the world. She enters, not the opposite. When your life is a mission, a real mission, she feels she is joining a narrative that is rising, not stagnating. A man with a script is forgettable. A man with a destiny is unforgettable. That's the hidden axis of obsession Machiavelli would respect. Machiavelli always returns to one core law of human nature. People desire more what they believe they may lose. Scarcity is not about disappearing. Scarcity is about not giving unlimited access. Modern men destroy their power because they offer everything too fast. Attention, time, emotional investment, availability, intimacy, before anything is earned. But when a man strategically controls access to himself, he becomes a psychological rarity. Women subconsciously categorize him differently. He is not another option. He becomes the exception.
and exceptions activate competition. Not forced competition, but internal competition inside the woman herself. She thinks deeper, she invests more, she imagines more, she starts to do what Machiavelli valued most in human nature. She begins to justify internally why you are worth pursuing. That is the secret. If she convinces herself, the desire becomes unbreakable. Scarcity creates value. Scarcity creates narrative. Scarcity creates meaning. You must let her feel like your presence is earned, not given freely. Not because you play games, but because you respect your own value. A man who honors his time, his purpose, and his direction becomes a limited resource, and limited resources generate obsession. This is why the Machiavellian man isn't rushing to secure attention. He is calmly selecting who even deserves access. That shift alone rewires the entire dynamic. There's a Machiavellian insight that explains why some men naturally become unforgettable. Humans fall deeper for the person who makes them transform. Most men try to be entertaining, agreeable, cute, convenient. But the Machiavellian man does something entirely different. He becomes a mirror that forces evolution. He challenges her thinking. He holds higher standards. He doesn't adapt his values to avoid discomfort. He invites her into a narrative where growth is expected, not optional. This activates a powerful psychological mechanism. When someone grows because of you, they emotionally anchor that growth to you. That creates a bond far stronger than physical attraction. That creates loyalty that feels irrational. That creates desire that feels like destiny. Women don't obsess over a man because he made them feel safe. They obsess over the man who made them feel more alive, more feminine, more intelligent, more aware, more capable. And Machiavelli would tell you, influence is not about control. Influence is about impact. If your presence shapes her identity, she will never forget you. Because you didn't just touch her emotions, you altered her story. And when you alter a person's story, you become part of their internal narrative forever. This is where real power lives. Machiavelli always insisted the strongest force in influence is never the loudest, it is the one that shapes the environment. Most men talk too much because they fear not being noticed. They over-explain their value because they think words create connection. But the Machiavellian man understands words are cheap. Presence is expensive. Silence is a weapon. Not a defensive silence, a strategic silence.
The man who is not forced to fill every moment with noise is the man whose mind cannot be easily read. And the mind that cannot be easily read becomes a puzzle. And puzzles trigger psychological investment. Women interpret silence. They create meaning around it. They fill the gaps with imagination. And imagination is far stronger than literal communication. This is why Machiavellian men do not waste energy convincing. They allow others to discover their value. Discovery has 100x more impact than persuasion. Because when someone discovers your worth on their own, the ego emotionally anchors the conclusion as truth. The key is not manipulation. It is non-reactivity combined with internal certainty. You do not chase closure. You do not chase answers. You do not chase outcomes. You become so grounded that you bend the rhythm of interaction around you without effort. Power this silent becomes addictive, not because it intimidates, but because it feels like emotional gravity. Here is another Machiavellian layer that most men never notice because they are too busy trying to be liked by everyone. Recognition loses power when it is given to everyone.
recognition becomes priceless when it is rare. Women don't become obsessed with the man who compliments every girl. They become obsessed with the man who sees deeply, but chooses very selectively where he places his attention. Attention is a currency. Machiavelli would say it is one of the most powerful currencies in human behavior. Most men spend it recklessly. The Machiavellian man invests it surgically. He doesn't validate easily. He doesn't praise quickly. He doesn't reward shallow behavior. He observes, he filters, he chooses. And when he finally recognizes something, even something small, it lands 10x stronger because it means the recognition was earned. This triggers a deeper feminine instinct. If I earned value from this man once, I must keep earning it. That is where pursuit begins. Because pursuit is not born from what she already has. Pursuit is born from what she feels she could lose. And a man whose attention is a reward, not a default, becomes the kind of man a woman invests real emotion into. She begins to want his praise. She begins to crave his approval. She begins to fight for his focus. This is how the Machiavellian man becomes the psychological prize others work to keep, not the man who works to be chosen. Power is not about dominance. Power is about value that cannot be easily accessed. Machiavelli warned rulers about something that applies perfectly to modern men. If people can reach you too easily, they will stop respecting you. And this is not just physical access, it's emotional access, mental access, time access. Men today answer instantly. They stop everything to reply. They alter their schedule to prove interest. But availability without criteria communicates one single hidden message. My life does not have higher priority than you. And the moment a woman feels she ranks above your mission, above your growth, above your purpose, her subconscious will downgrade you. Because if you are not leading your own life, she cannot trust you to lead anything together. Machiavelli believed the prince must maintain an aura of partial distance, not coldness, but structure. This structure signals that your life is already meaningful without external validation. A man who is always on call becomes forgettable. A man whose time is scarce becomes unforgettable. The less she can predict your rhythm, the more she thinks about you. That's why obsession is never born from excess. It's born from controlled access. Women become addicted to the man they cannot schedule, the man who moves with purpose, not emotional reactivity. Because purpose is masculine gravity. Purpose forms narrative. Purpose forces the world to orbit your direction, not the opposite. This is the Machiavellian secret hidden in plain sight. Availability kills mystery. Mystery fuels imagination. And imagination creates desire. And in the end, Machiavelli's hidden truth becomes painfully simple. Women don't go crazy for the man who tries to prove his worth. They go crazy for the man who needs no permission to exist. A man who respects himself so deeply that his presence already speaks louder than any explanation. A man who moves with direction, not desperation. A man who refuses to give easy access to his mind, his emotions, or his future. This is the final layer Machiavelli understood. Power is not something you take. Power is something you become. When you control your reactions, your impulses, your fear of being alone, you create an identity so solid that others naturally bend toward it. You don't force desire. You trigger desire simply by existing as a man who lives on his own axis. The less you negotiate your value, the more your value becomes undeniable. And when a woman feels that she could lose a man like that, even if she never says it, her mind becomes owned by that possibility. That is when she thinks about you without trying. That is when she remembers you without reason. That is when her desire becomes a storm that she cannot shut down. Not because you chased her, but because you became the one she cannot replace.